All right, Chris.
Remix. It's okay. It's all right. We're with you. Get it out.
Stay with me now. The Cowboys have to get Zeke more involved if they want to get back on track with the way the offense is going.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of their best players, so getting the ball in his hands is always a good idea. But when you look at how the last couple of games unfolded, when they get down early in ball games, it's hard for the team to stay with Ezekiel Elliott, especially when you have a situation where you have a double-digit deficit, which is where the Cowboys found themselves in the second half at home against the Green Bay Packers. So if you look at the first 3 games, they had a positive turnover differential. The last 2 games, they're -5.
Right.
So, I mean, regardless of the step up in competition, you still have to be able to take care of the football. You have to give your offense a chance to get started. And with all of the turnovers that they've had, it's going to be hard to stay with the running game.
Yeah, they have to, because the numbers indicate they're a better team when Zeke's great. But the numbers are a little distorted because every team that has great players, the numbers look better when that player is playing well.
Sure.
If that's a wide receiver, if it's a running back, if it's a quarterback. But how do they get those numbers? And it's not as if Zeke has deteriorated, but their offensive line. Is their offensive line really a top 5 offensive line?
Not without Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins. I know that, and maybe simply just not without Tyron Smith. Without Tyron Smith, you see their record drop off the cliff and their production drop off the cliff.
Well, that's the line that they have.
Right.
We keep every time we talk about Dallas, we act as if this is the most dominant line I've seen in NFL the last 20 years. No, they're not. They got 2 good players, and that's their center and that's their right guard. All right? And right now, they got scraps, just like a lot of people in the league trying to make it happen. But we have the same expectations on Ezekiel Elliott. Well, I need an offensive coordinator to come up with some type of scheme to be able to get me those types of yards. So how do I get the running attack without just the conventional wisdom of running Ezekiel Elliott? That's what I believe is on Kellen Moore. You hired him with no experience, so him and Jason Garrett have to come up with, how do I protect these tackles? I can't play just one tight end. I'm going to have formations where I go unbalanced line, Canty. I'm going to have to go 2 and 3 tight ends because I am not the powerful Dallas Cowboys I have been the last 3 years with that offensive line moving people against their will. And also, if I'm the quarterback, I got to move the pocket some. We have to be able to try to enhance the abilities of Dak Prescott and of Ezekiel Elliott, but we can't talk about them without talking about a poor offensive line. It's impossible to run the football behind a bad offensive line. So Zeke's numbers, to me, are a reflection, not the NFL. They got a book on him. No, him missing training camp. The only thing missing training camp that I would say that is suffering, we haven't seen the big run yet. By this time in the season, he would have broke off 2 or 3 big runs or passes that would enhance his number a little bit and help out that offense. But that offensive line, that's the issue.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, though, because let's talk about the 2 running backs who are playing the best of anyone in football. Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. The Carolina Panthers have an okay offensive line. They don't have a Zach Martin or the center Travis Frederick, but they've got an okay offensive line. Yeah. I know we talk about the Vikings a lot. Their biggest weakness is their offensive line, and Dalvin Cook is playing exceptionally well. I don't think either of those players, McCaffrey maybe right now, but I don't think either of those players is demonstrably better than Zeke. So is that about their play calling? Is that about their
Neither one of those guys. When you face the Carolina Panthers, you're a defensive coordinator. You are saying the same thing. We have to stop Christian McCaffrey. We have to stop Dalvin Cook. But you don't say we got to put 8 guys in the box. You say we have to stop them by scheme. Zeke, what you're doing, I got to put 8 dudes up there because if not, this guy is a more proven runner between the tackles, so there's more bodies. Even though you might have the same rep, how we going to go about doing it is totally different. How they defend the Vikings, they ain't no 8 in the box against the Vikings. Ain't no 8 in the box against Carolina because they realize also with Dalvin Cook's speed, McCaffrey's versatility, that's not the best way to defense those 2 players.
And so for Dallas, the issue isn't so much about, to me, Zeke's lack of production through 5 games. The issue is that they have their absolute inability to win when Zeke doesn't produce. We're in an era where the running back is fungible, where running backs don't get paid, where Melvin Gordon holds out and Zeke and Austin Eckler or Justin Jackson comes in and it's just the same. And I understand Zeke's better than Melvin Gordon. But no team that has a winning record, a very good record over the last 4 years, 1-8. in the 9 games your running back doesn't crack 75 yards. That, to me, speaks to Zeke's unique importance to his team and an organizational breakdown to a degree to go to a second pitch if your first pitch isn't working. That's what's concerning for Dallas. Because I agree with you. Why are his carries down? Well, you're down 31-3 against Green Bay. You're going to get away from the run game. Well, week 1, he's held out of training camp. Yep. He's going to be on a pitch count. So I know why his carries are down. But Dallas's inability to, hey, what happened? How'd the Cowboys win this week? Well, I'll tell you, Zeke had 14 carries for 38 yards, and they won. That never happens, and that's what's concerning.
The offensive line's job, Nick, for a running back is to get him through the line of scrimmage and get him to the second level. It's the running back's job to make guys at the second level miss and for him to make big plays. So the Dallas offensive line is not even giving Zeke the opportunity. So you talk about those games that Zeke's not good in. I wish you'd do a study and look at the games that he wasn't running the ball, that their defense wasn't good in. Mm-hmm. Because to me, those things work out well, too. We put it on Dak, but you need to put it on the rest of that team to do a correlation. Wow, when Zeke doesn't run the ball, it's like their defense is not the same defense that I'm seeing.
Yeah, and their defense is giving up a full touchdown more per game in the last 2 games than they were in the first 3 games. So, I mean, of course it has to do with the offensive line. Anytime you look at the production of the run game, Bill Parcells used to always say this, all running backs run the same when there's no hole, and that's not very well. And so you're seeing that opposing defensive fronts are doing a better job at being able to stack the line of scrimmage and build a wall and keep Zeke from being able to have those seams where he can get to the next level, and then, of course, being able to beat guys one-on-one and make big plays in the run game. But you also have to look at their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. He's got to be able to come up with answers, and sooner in ball games. One of the things that Jason Witten talked about earlier this week was how impressed he was that Kellen Moore was able to make an adjustment in the second half to some of the coverages that they were going up against with that Packers defense. Now, they did score 21 points in the second half. You know, they started doing some double moves with the wide receivers, and they were able to get Coop and Gallup open. But, I mean, I'm going to need for my offensive coordinator to figure that out a little earlier so we don't have to overcome a 28-point deficit. So a part of this has to be on Jason Garrett and Kellen Moore putting this offense in situations where they can have success earlier in the games.
And on Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore, and Dak Prescott, that if it's true, and it clearly is, that defenses are stacked putting 8 in the box to stop Zeke, no matter what his numbers are, to take advantage of the best passing formation, passing situation you can possibly be in, with the defense focusing that heavily on the running game.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.